Her absence that night was the first sign, but Ryan resisted feeding his doubts. He recalled his mother's wisdom. Don't make storms where there are no clouds. Yet, something felt out of place. Madison, who usually responded promptly even when occupied, sent only a brief and vague message that night. I think I overate. I'm exhausted and going to bed early. Ryan accepted her explanation, but the message lingered in his mind. It seemed hurried, as though she was avoiding further conversation. The next day, Madison returned home, radiating the energy of someone who had a fantastic getaway. She entered with a bright smile that lit up the room, embraced Ryan warmly, and excitedly recounted tales of her friends, their shopping trips, and how refreshing it was to escape daily life. Ryan tried convincing himself that his unease was unfounded, attributing it to paranoia. She's happy, and the trip did her good, he thought, while watching her unpack. But despite the apparent normalcy, subtle details nagged at him. He couldn't quite identify what was wrong. Maybe it was her avoidance of eye contact when he asked about her final hours in Miami, or the casual way she dismissed losing track of time, as if eager to change the subject. Ryan found it increasingly difficult to quiet his mind. Determined not to appear distrustful, he maintained his usual demeanor as the supportive, understanding husband. But as days passed, the uneasy feeling persisted. He began to question whether his unwavering trust in Madison had been misplaced. Then, unexpectedly, something happened that forced his lingering suspicions into sharp focus. An email notification appeared on Madison's laptop screen, and in that moment, Ryan felt as though fate was intervening. Seated on the couch with his thoughts drifting, Ryan noticed Madison's laptop resting on the coffee table. He had always respected her privacy and never touched her belongings, believing strongly in mutual respect. But a quiet email alert drew his attention. Glancing at the screen, his eyes landed on the subject line. Thank you for your visit. Ocean Breeze Restaurant. The title gave him pause. It was unexpected, especially from a place he didn't recognize. The image showed Madison at a candlelit table, elegantly dressed in a black gown he had never seen before. But she wasn't alone. A man with a confident smile sat across from her, appearing to hold her hand. Madison's expression in the photo was particularly painful. She looked relaxed, glowing, even happier than she had seemed in a long time. Ryan stared at the image for what felt like an eternity, struggling to make sense of it. Maybe he's just a friend of her friends, he tried to reason, grasping at explanations to calm the storm brewing within him. But the formal setting, the intimate body language, and her omission of this dinner from her trip stories made it impossible to dismiss the most obvious conclusion. Madison was hiding something. Swiftly closing the laptop, Ryan tried to erase the image from his thoughts, but it remained vivid, replaying in his mind. He considered confronting her immediately, but hesitated. What would he say? Would he even get the truth? Ryan realized he needed more information, context to determine whether the dinner was harmless or something far more significant. Questions swirled in his mind. Why hadn't Madison mentioned this restaurant? Who was the man? And why did she seem so at ease with him? From that moment, Ryan began to notice subtle changes in her behavior. Since her return from Miami, Madison seemed more attached to her phone, guarding it closely, as if concealing a secret. Ryan couldn't decide if his observations were real or if his mind was searching for clues to justify his suspicions. But one thing was clear. If there was something hidden, he would uncover it. Though feelings of betrayal began to stir, so too did a sense of determination. The photo was just the starting point. Ryan resolved to discover the full truth, no matter the cost. In the days that followed, Ryan felt like an outsider in his own life. The email and photo consumed his thoughts, but he refrained from confronting Madison prematurely. An uninformed discussion, he feared, might lead to evasions or worse, convincing lies. He needed concrete evidence. Meanwhile, Madison's actions, though subtle, now seemed loaded with possible meaning. She laughed less at his jokes, appeared more reserved. During breakfast, her phone, once always in sight, now remained hidden in her pocket or bag, even when they were alone at home. The most painful part for Ryan was that Madison seemed happier, but in a way that excluded him. It felt as if she was leading two lives, and he was only part of one. Then, one afternoon, the chance he had been waiting for presented itself. Madison had hurried out to meet a friend and, in her rush, left her phone charging in the kitchen. Ryan hesitated, guilt pressing down on him like a heavy weight. It's wrong to snoop, he thought. What if I'm mistaken? I could destroy something that doesn't need fixing. But the memory of the photo and the unfamiliar man returned, tightening the lump in his throat. With shaking hands, he picked up the phone, unlocked the screen, and felt his heart pounding as he navigated the apps. His search stopped at the messages, where a conversation with an unfamiliar name, Lucas, waited. Opening the chat confirmed his worst fears. The recent messages were blunt and undeniable. I loved our dinner in Miami. I can't stop thinking about you. Hugging you before you left felt amazing. I already miss you. Madison's response, sent the previous night, hit him like a blow. Me too. Every moment with you is special. I hope we can see each other again soon. Ryan reread the messages repeatedly, each word cutting deeper. Scrolling further, he uncovered more. Photos of their time together, affectionate exchanges, and even plans to reunite. All of it was hidden in the silence of the phone he'd seen in her hands countless times. What shattered him completely was a message from Lucas, sent before Madison returned from Miami. I hope you're ready to tell him soon. You deserve to be happy. The phone slipped from Ryan's grasp, the betrayal crashing over him like a tidal wave. Madison wasn't just being unfaithful physically. There was an intention, a plan he didn't yet fully understand. Yet, she had walked through their door with a smile, pretending everything was normal. He wanted to confront her immediately, to scream, cry, and demand answers. But another thought emerged. A new idea began to form. If Madison thought she could control the narrative, he wouldn't let her. He decided not to confront her. Not yet, Ryan realized he had to channel his pain into something else. He craved answers, but more than that, he wanted justice. He needed a way to expose the truth on his terms. With his mind racing, he began crafting a strategy. Madison's secrets wouldn't remain hidden for long, and Ryan would ensure they came to light in a way she would never forget. In the days that followed, Ryan meticulously mapped out every detail of his plan. Known for his patience and logical approach, he resolved not to act impulsively. Madison assumed he was clueless, and Ryan intended to use that to his advantage. If she had lied and betrayed him with such precision, he would do the same to unveil the truth. The inspiration came to him one quiet night as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Madison's birthday was approaching, and she had been enthusiastically discussing it. I want a really special celebration this year, something unforgettable, she had said casually the week before. Ryan had nodded and smiled, keeping the bitter irony to himself. It will definitely be unforgettable, he thought. Ryan began executing his plan. He rented a beautiful venue, hired a decorator, and arranged every detail to match Madison's dream celebration. Fresh flowers, sparkling lights, and a carefully curated playlist. Everything was picture perfect. He made sure to invite her conservative parents, who saw her as the epitome of virtue, along with the couple's close friends and Madison's colleagues. The guest list included everyone significant in her life. The finishing touch was hiring a professional audiovisual team, explaining to the guests that he was preparing a special tribute, a heartfelt presentation of their happiest moments together. But the reality was much darker. Night after night, Ryan worked on editing a video. It began with joyful memories of their relationship, but concluded with the shocking truth. The messages, the photos, and the damning selfie at the restaurant. On the day of the party, the venue was flawless. Madison, glowing and radiant, mingled with guests, laughing and expressing gratitude for Ryan's thoughtfulness. He greeted everyone with a calm smile, though his heart felt heavy as he prepared for the pivotal moment. Each passing second dragged on as he waited for everyone to settle, distracted by soft music and circulating champagne. Finally, the time came. Ryan stepped onto the small stage in the center of the room, microphone in hand. With a composed yet deliberate tone, he addressed the audience. Tonight is all about celebrating Madison, the remarkable woman we all admire and love. I wanted to do something special to show how much she means to me and to all of you. So, I've prepared a video with some of our most cherished memories. I hope you enjoy it. The lights dimmed, and the large screen at the back of the room lit up. The video began with snapshots of their wedding, bright smiles and loving gazes. It transitioned into moments from trips and family gatherings, drawing heartfelt sighs and murmurs from the audience. Madison appeared touched, her eyes glistening as she watched. But then the tone shifted. The soft background music stopped abruptly, replaced by the cold, sharp sound of a message notification echoing through the speakers. The next words to appear on the screen were unmistakably clear. Here is the rewritten version. I loved our dinner in Miami. I can't stop thinking about you. The room grew silent as the next image, an unmistakable photo of Madison and Lucas at the restaurant, was displayed in sharp clarity for everyone to see. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, followed by gasps and expressions of shock. Madison froze, her face draining of color. The video continued, now featuring screenshots of conversations between Madison and Lucas. The tension in the room was overwhelming. Madison's father stood abruptly, his face flushed with fury, while her mother stifled a sob, covering her mouth with trembling hands. "How could you?" her father muttered, his voice thick with disgust. Madison suddenly stood, her hands shaking as she attempted to speak, but the words refused to come. Ryan, still standing on stage, remained silent, letting the images and the room's atmosphere speak for him. When the video ended, he stepped down calmly, leaving Madison in the center of a circle of judgmental stares. "Please, let me explain," Madison pleaded, her voice breaking. "It's not what it looks like. Ryan, can we talk? Please?" But Ryan walked past her without a glance, heading toward a group of friends gathered on the far side of the room. Justice, in his eyes, had been served. What was meant to be a joyous celebration had morphed into a display of betrayal laid bare. Ryan exited the venue shortly afterward, leaving Madison to face the fallout of her choices. The once lively hall, filled with music and laughter, was now enveloped in a thick, uncomfortable silence. After Ryan's departure, the room's atmosphere shifted further. What remained was a blend of shock, unease, and disbelief. All attention was on Madison, who seemed frozen in place, as if the ground beneath her had vanished. Her mother, Mary, sat nearby, pale and clutching a handkerchief in her unsteady hands. Her father, Richard, remained standing, staring at Madison with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "Is this true?" he finally asked, his voice slicing through the silence like a knife. Madison tried to reply, stumbling over her words. "Dad, it's not that simple. I can explain." But Richard raised his hand, silencing her with a gesture laden with disapproval. One by one, the guests began to leave, some casting sympathetic glances at Madison, while others looked at her with outright condemnation. Friends who had once stood by her side now avoided her gaze, whispering among themselves as they exited. The perfect image Madison had worked so hard to maintain was crumbling in real time, and she was powerless to stop it. As the last guests departed and the staff began dismantling decorations, Madison collapsed into a chair, tears finally flowing freely. Her sobs were not only from humiliation, but also from the crushing reality of her actions. She had lost Ryan, and, with him, the life they had built together. That evening, back at the house they once shared, Madison sat on the couch, staring blankly into the emptiness around her. The familiar decor now felt lifeless, stripped of any warmth. She knew Ryan wouldn't return that night, perhaps not ever. The ringing of the phone sparked a glimmer of hope, but it was her mother on the line. "Madison," Mary began, her voice heavy with sorrow, "I don't even know where to start. We raised you to be an honest and decent person. How did it come to this?" Madison, through tears, replied, "I made a mistake, Mom. I was confused, lonely. I don't know what I was thinking." But Mary wasn't swayed. "Confused? This wasn't confusion, Madison. These were choices. Choices that hurt Ryan, hurt all of us. Now you'll have to face the consequences." Her mother's words hit hard, forcing Madison to confront the magnitude of what she had destroyed. Not only her marriage, but also the trust and respect of her family and friends. She tried calling Ryan, but he didn't answer. Texts and messages went unread. The isolation grew unbearable, and Madison began to question whether she could ever repair the damage she had caused. Meanwhile, Ryan, staying in a small nearby hotel, felt a mix of relief and sorrow. He knew the public exposure of Madison's actions had been harsh, but he believed it was necessary for her to grasp the gravity of her betrayal. For the first time in weeks, he managed to sleep, though his heart remained heavy. Ryan had lost someone he deeply loved, but he also understood that he couldn't let her betrayal define his future. The next morning, Madison woke in a house that now felt hollow, devoid of the happy memories it once held. Every corner seemed to echo what she had lost. As she stared out the window, she realized that the forgiveness she needed most was her own, though she knew it would be the hardest to attain. Days turned into weeks, and Ryan's absence left an ever-growing void in Madison's life. The silence of the house was deafening, and every corner reminded her of the life they had shared. She continued trying to reach out, messages, emails, even letters. But Ryan remained resolute. The man who had once loved her unconditionally now felt unreachable, as though a wall had risen between them. Meanwhile, Ryan was beginning to rebuild. He moved into a modest downtown apartment, far removed from the house he had shared with Madison. The simplicity of his new space offered relief, free from the ghosts of the past. His mornings became peaceful, his evenings filled with books, music, and the soothing quiet of a life beginning to heal. One day, during a walk in a nearby park, Ryan had an unexpected encounter. A woman with a kind smile and calm demeanor crossed his path. Amanda, walking her golden retriever, Max, accidentally bumped into him while he was holding a coffee. The interaction was simple, but marked the start of something new. Amanda was different. She didn't pry or push, but instead shared light, easy moments. Madison grappled with the harsh aftermath of her decisions, while Ryan found the strength to move forward. Her once proud career became a daily challenge, as the glances from colleagues ranged from curious to openly critical. However, the emotional distance from her parents caused her the most pain. Their calls became infrequent, awkward, and limited to surface-level topics. Her mother, who had always been her strongest ally, could hardly meet her gaze without showing profound sorrow. The breaking point came on a Sunday evening when Madison visited her parents, hoping to mend fences. During dinner, her father Richard, who seldom brought up the incident, broke the silence. "Madison, you knew this would ruin your life, didn't you? That it wasn't just Ryan you'd lose." His words were blunt, laced with a disappointment Madison didn't know how to mend. Her voice faltered as she replied, "I thought I could fix it all, Dad. I didn't realize it would end like this." Richard's next question lingered like a weight in the room. "And now, what will you do with what's left?" It was a challenge Madison knew she would have to face on her own. As Madison worked to rebuild her shattered life, Ryan discovered resilience and hope. His bond with Amanda grew in ways he hadn't anticipated. Though he still bore the emotional wounds of his past, Amanda never pressured him to move faster than he was ready. Instead, she offered him moments of unfiltered happiness and sincerity. Ryan came to understand that life continued after heartbreak, and love, although delicate, was still attainable. Months later, Ryan received a letter from Madison. It wasn't an appeal for forgiveness or a plea to rekindle their relationship. Instead, it was a heartfelt admission of her mistakes and acknowledgement of the consequences she had to bear. "I ruined something that can never be repaired," she confessed, "but I hope you find happiness, because you deserve far more than I was ever able to give." Sitting in his modest apartment, Ryan read the letter quietly. He felt no anger, no satisfaction, just a profound sense of closure. It marked the true end of his chapter with Madison, and for the first time, he felt ready to move forward. Meanwhile, Madison found a path to redemption by rediscovering her own resilience. She started therapy, slowly rebuilt the bond with her parents, and devoted her energy to volunteering, assisting women facing similar struggles. Although the ache of losing Ryan remained a constant reminder of her actions, she used that pain to fuel her transformation into a better version of herself. Their story didn't conclude with a reunion, but with individual growth. Both Madison and Ryan moved forward, learning valuable lessons about honesty, respect, and the courage to begin anew. In the end, the greatest takeaway was that even in the wake of turmoil, life finds a way to press on. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time. Hello and welcome. Enjoy the content, and don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. Ryan felt his relationship with Madison was everything he had ever wished for, a true dream come to life. He believed he had found in her a partner who embodied mutual respect and unwavering trust. Madison, with her warm smile and independent nature, always valued her personal space, something Ryan deeply admired. He never wanted to be the overbearing husband, and perhaps that's why he was genuinely proud when she shared her plans for a trip to Miami with her friends. "It'll be wonderful for you to relax, sweetheart," he had said, truly pleased for her. The first days of her trip went by effortlessly. Madison frequently sent messages, sharing photos of breathtaking beaches, joyful selfies with her friends, and even a video of a seaside restaurant where they had dinner. These updates made Ryan feel close to her, even from afar, reinforcing his belief that their marriage was built on a strong and special foundation. However, things began to shift on the final evening of her trip.